He said he hated me until he didn't. It started with a beer can to the chest. Catch, loser. Logan's voice came sharp across the backyard, just as the cold aluminum smacked against me. I stumbled, caught it clumsily, and gave him a look. He smirked from the deck, still in his cleats from soccer practice, shirt already off and slung over his shoulder like he knew exactly what it was doing to people. That was Logan, my best friend's older brother. Tall, loud, cocky, and for the better part of my teenage years, the bane of my existence. You still throw like a girl, by the way, he added. I rolled my eyes. Nice to see you too, Logan. Ben, my best friend, was inside getting chips or something. I had no idea. We were just hanging out like we had every summer since we were 10. Except now, we were in college, and everything felt a little different. Different. Like how Logan had filled out in the 2 years since I last saw him without a shirt. Different. Like how his insults didn't sting the same way anymore. They felt charged. Loaded. Like there was something underneath them he wasn't saying. The truth is, I used to hate him, and maybe a part of me still did. But another part, an embarrassingly large part, was obsessed. I noticed everything. The way he tugged at his sleeves when he was nervous. The tiny scar near his eyebrow from when he fell off his bike in middle school. How he always seemed like he was about to say something, then didn't. Ben always told me not to take Logan's crap seriously. He's a dick to everyone, Ben had said once, half laughing. Don't let it get to you. I didn't. Not really. But Logan had this way of getting under my skin. And now, standing in his backyard in the golden light of late afternoon, he was under a lot more than that. So, he said, jumping down from the deck and walking over, you still doing that poetry major thing or whatever? Creative writing, I muttered, cracking open the can. Not that it's any of your business, he tilted his head. You write, like, love poems? I narrowed my eyes. Sometimes. Ever write one about me? I scoffed. What makes you think I'd waste my time? He grinned. Because I've caught you staring. That shut me up. He stepped closer, and I could smell the sweat and grass on his skin, feel the heat coming off his chest. My heart started pounding. You think I didn't notice? He said quietly, voice lower now, almost thoughtful. All those times you hung out with Ben, always flinching when I walked in. You look at me like you hate me. Maybe I do. He smiled again. But this time it wasn't teasing. It was something else. Something that made my throat dry. No, you don't, he said. And then he turned and walked away. I stood there, beer warm in my hand, pulse racing like I just sprinted across the yard. Whatever just happened, I wasn't ready for it. But I wanted more. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Logan smirk. Heard the way his voice had dropped when he said I looked at him like I hated him. I kept replaying that moment in the yard, how close he'd stood, the heat of his skin just inches from mine. What the hell was that? Ben and I stayed up late gaming, like always, but I was distracted. He noticed. Of course, he always noticed. You good? He asked around midnight, side-eyeing me from his beanbag chair. Yeah, I said too quickly. Just tired, he shrugged, too used to my evasions to push it. Logan's being less of an asshole than usual, huh? I almost choked on my soda. What? I mean, he's still a dick, Ben continued, eyes on the screen. But I don't know, he actually talked to you today. Usually, he just ignores you. Yeah, I said quietly. Weird. Ben passed out on the couch a few hours later. I tried to do the same in the guest room, but ended up scrolling through Instagram, heart racing like I just finished a 5-mile run. I was still awake when I heard footsteps outside the door. Soft, hesitant, then a quiet knock. I froze. Yeah? My voice was barely above a whisper. The door opened an inch. Logan's face appeared, half shadowed in the dim hallway light. You up? I blinked. Yeah? He stepped inside, closing the door behind him, with this eerie quietness I hadn't expected from a guy who usually stomped like a football player. He was shirtless again, wearing only sweatpants. His hair was damp, like he'd just showered. "I can't sleep," he said simply, leaning against the door. "Okay?" I wasn't sure what he expected me to say. He crossed the room in 2 slow steps, sat on the edge of the bed, not looking at me. "Look," he started, then stopped, rubbed the back of his neck. "I'm not good at this shit." I sat up a little. "What shit?" he exhaled. "I don't know. Talking, feelings, whatever." I stared at him, heart pounding. "You don't say." That got a half smile from him. Then he looked at me, really looked, and everything in my chest tightened. "I don't know what it is about you," he said quietly, "but you get under my skin." I swallowed. "That's supposed to be a compliment?" He shook his head. "No, I mean, yeah, maybe. He trailed off, and suddenly the air between us felt thick. "You know Ben would kill me if he knew I was in here, right?" he added, voice even lower now. I nodded, my voice caught in my throat. "Then why are you?" Logan didn't answer right away. Then he leaned in, elbows on his knees, head down. "I've been thinking about it for a while. You, this, us, I guess." "There's no us," I said. Too fast, too defensive. He looked at me, calm, unreadable. "Then why are you shaking?" I hadn't realized I was. He reached out, slowly, like I was something wild and easily spooked. His hand landed on my thigh. Warm, heavy, real. I didn't move. "I've never done this before," he admitted. I finally found my voice. "Done what?" "Wanted a guy." The words hung in the air like fog. And then, like some switch flipped, I felt myself lean toward him. Not much, just enough to cross the line. Just enough to feel his breath mix with mine. We didn't kiss. Not then. Logan leaned in too, like he might, but at the last second, he pulled back. Not far. Just enough to keep the tension strung between us so tight it hurt. "Maybe I shouldn't have come in here," he muttered, his voice rough. "Ben's my brother, yours best friend. This is messed up." I nodded slowly, though my body screamed at me to grab his hand and pull him the rest of the way. "Then go." He didn't move. "Logan." His jaw flexed. "I can't figure out if I want to punch a wall or kiss you." I laughed, dry and shaky. "That's not comforting." "I didn't mean..." He stopped, closing his eyes for a second. "This is exactly why I didn't want to talk to you." I raised an eyebrow. "Then why did you?" His eyes snapped open. "Because you were always there. And I was always watching. And you made it really hard to pretend I didn't care." Something about the way he said it hit deeper than I expected. Honest? Frustrated, like this had been building inside him for a long time and he didn't know how to carry it anymore. "Why me?" I asked quietly. He hesitated. "Because you never let me get away with anything. You didn't care who I was. You saw through the bullshit." He looked at me, the smallest trace of vulnerability flickering behind his usual arrogance. "And maybe," he added, "because when I saw you staring at me this afternoon, I didn't want you to stop." My throat went dry. I didn't know what to say to that. We sat there in silence, his hand still resting on my thigh, his body close enough to feel the heat radiating between us. Then he stood up. "I'm not gonna push you," he said, taking a step back. "I just needed you to know." I watched him walk to the door, watched his hand hesitate on the knob. "You're not the only one who's scared," I said quietly. He paused, turned his head slightly. "Then, what do we do?" I shrugged, suddenly aware of the pounding in my chest. "We stop pretending." He turned fully now, his eyes locked on mine. "Yeah?" I nodded. Logan didn't smile. He didn't say anything. He just crossed the room again, slow and sure, until he was right in front of me. And this time, when he leaned in, he didn't stop. His lips met mine, soft, warm, hesitant, like he was still figuring out if he was allowed to do this. I kissed him back. Not because I knew what this meant, Not because it was safe, but because in that moment, it felt like the only thing in the world that was real. The kiss didn't last long. It was brief, careful, like we were testing the edge of something too sharp to hold for long. But even in that moment, everything inside me buzzed, like touching a live wire. When Logan pulled back, his eyes searched mine. "Okay," he whispered, almost like he was talking to himself. That happened. I couldn't tell if he was horrified or relieved, maybe both. "You good?" I asked, my voice low. He exhaled through his nose, then nodded. Yeah, I've never kissed a guy before." I smirked, still breathless. Could have fooled me. That got a tiny laugh out of him, and for a second, the tension cracked just enough to feel manageable. He sat beside me again, not touching this time, just close. "I feel like I just did something unforgivable," he said, staring at the floor. "Ben would lose his shit." "Yeah," I admitted. "He might." He glanced over at me. "But you're not freaking out." I shook my head. "I've had a lot more time to think about this than you have." That shut him up for a beat. Then, "So you felt this for a while?" I hesitated, but what was the point in lying now? "Yeah, I don't even know when it started. Probably sometime in high school. You were always so obnoxious. I figured it was just hate. But then, I don't know, you grew up, got quiet sometimes. And when you weren't being a jerk, you were actually kind of compelling." He looked at me with this strange expression, half amusement, half wonder. "Compelling," he repeated. "Never heard that one." I nudged him with my shoulder. "Don't get cocky." He nudged back. "No promises." We sat there for a while, saying nothing. The silence wasn't awkward. It was weirdly peaceful, like neither of us knew what came next, but we were okay with just being still for a second. Then his phone buzzed. He pulled it out of his pocket and sighed. "Ben's wondering where I am." I straightened up. "You should go." "Yeah." He stood, ran a hand through his hair. "This doesn't mean I know what I'm doing." "I don't either." He lingered at the door again, that now familiar hesitation in his stance. "I'm not saying I'm ready for all of this," he said, "but I don't want to ignore it anymore." I nodded. "Same." And then he was gone. I lay back on the bed, heart still racing, staring at the ceiling like it could explain what the hell had just happened. Logan kissed me, and I kissed him back. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what would happen when we saw each other in the morning, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like something real was starting, something that scared the hell out of both of us. The next morning was awkward. Not unbearable, not movie scene awkward. Just weird enough that I knew something had changed, and I didn't know how to play it cool. Ben was already making breakfast when I came downstairs. Pancakes and eggs, his usual post-late night gaming ritual. Logan was there too, barefoot, still in those gray sweatpants, sipping coffee like he hadn't kissed me 7 hours earlier. "Morning," Ben said, flipping a pancake. "You sleep okay?" "Yeah," I lied. Logan didn't say anything. He just looked at me over the rim of his mug, eyes unreadable. Then he went back to staring out the kitchen window. I busied myself with pouring juice, sitting as far from Logan as I could without making it obvious. I felt like I was trying to pass a polygraph with every blink. After breakfast, Ben suggested we go down to the lake. Water's probably still freezing, but who cares, he said. "Let's just chill." He turned to Logan. "You coming?" Logan shrugged. "In a bit. I've got a call first." I almost asked what call, but caught myself. I couldn't do that now. Not here. Not with Ben watching. So Ben and I walked down the trail toward the dock, him rambling about this girl he was kind of talking to, and me trying to act like I wasn't waiting for a text that wasn't coming. It wasn't until we were sitting with our feet in the cold water that Ben said something that made my stomach flip. "You and Logan didn't fight last night, did you?" I blinked. "What?" "No, why?" Ben shrugged. "He's acting weird. I thought maybe you guys had another one of your tense bro-offs or something." I forced a laugh. "Nope, all good." Ben gave me a long look but didn't push. "All right, just checking." We sat in silence for a bit, the kind that only really exists between two people who've known each other forever. I tried not to think about Logan, tried not to replay every second of that kiss. But then I heard footsteps behind us. Logan. He didn't say anything, just kicked off his flip-flops and dropped down beside me, shirtless, like that was a normal thing to do. My whole body tensed. Ben didn't notice. Nice of you to join us, Ben said. Logan grunted, squinting at the sun. Then, casually, he bumped my knee with his. It was nothing. A tiny nudge, a blink and you'll miss it moment. But it meant everything. It meant he remembered. That he wasn't pretending it didn't happen. That maybe he was just as scared of this as I was, but he still wanted to try. I didn't look at him. I couldn't. But I didn't pull away either. That night, after Ben went to bed, I found Logan outside by the fire pit, poking the embers with a stick like some restless kid. He didn't look up when I sat down. "You didn't text me," I said softly. I didn't know what to say. I nodded. "So what now?" He finally looked at me. "I don't know, I'm still figuring it out." There was a long pause. Then he added, "But I don't want to pretend like nothing happened." I swallowed. "Me neither." He glanced toward the house, then back at me. "Ben can't find out. Not yet." I get it. He hesitated, then reached out, slow, tentative, and placed his hand on mine. It was clumsy, almost too careful, but I felt it anyway. Warmth, intention, the beginning of something real. We sat there for a while, not talking, just watching the fire burn down to glowing coals. Logan's hand stayed on mine, thumb brushing lightly against my knuckles like he didn't realize he was doing it. Eventually, he sighed. "You ever feel like you're doing something that's gonna wreck everything, but you don't want to stop?" I turned to him. "Yeah, right now." He looked over at me, his eyes soft in the firelight. "I'm not used to this, letting someone in. Especially not like this." "I'm not asking you to be someone you're not," I said. "Just don't shut me out." He nodded, then leaned back in his chair, dragging a hand through his hair. "When did it start for you? Wanting this?" I gave a little laugh. "You really want to know?" "Yeah." "Junior year," I said. "You walked out of the house in a towel after soccer practice, and I swear to God, I almost dropped my cereal." He barked a laugh, surprised. "Seriously?" "Seriously. Jesus, that's embarrassing." "It was worse for me. I spent the whole day trying not to think about your stupid V-line." That made him smirk, but he didn't look at me. "You ever hook up with anyone before?" The question hit me harder than I expected. I shook my head. "Not really. Some flirting. A bad date or two. But nothing serious." He glanced at me, expression unreadable. "Good." I raised an eyebrow. "Good? I don't know. I like that I'm not late to the party or whatever." "You're not," I said softly. "You're just showing up fashionably late." He smiled at that. Then his fingers tightened a little around mine. "Can I kiss you again?" It was the way he asked, like he needed permission, like he didn't trust himself not to screw it up, that made my heart clench. "Yes." He leaned in slowly this time, less hesitant, more sure of what he wanted. His lips met mine again, warm and careful, but deeper than before. This wasn't testing the waters anymore. This was stepping in. I kissed him back, letting myself lean into it, letting my fingers brush his jaw. When we pulled apart, his forehead rested against mine. "I don't know what this is gonna look like," he whispered. "That's okay," I said. "We'll figure it out." We stayed like that for a moment, still holding on, like we were both afraid the spell might break if we let go. But it didn't. We didn't. Eventually, we made our way inside, careful not to wake Ben. I started heading toward the guest room, but Logan grabbed my wrist. "Stay," he said quietly. I hesitated. "In your room?" He nodded. "I don't want to wake up alone, not tonight." So I followed him down the hallway, heart pounding, brain screaming every possible warning, but none of them loud enough to stop me. Logan's room was mostly dark, lit only by the faint orange glow of the hallway light. It looked almost the same as it had when we were teenagers. Same posters, same mess of laundry on the floor, but now it felt different. Smaller, closer, warmer. He closed the door behind us with a soft click. We stood there for a second, just looking at each other. Then he said, "You can take the bed." I raised an eyebrow. "Seriously?" He shrugged. "You're the guest. You kissed me. Twice. I think we're past the whole polite house guest thing." He smirked, then nodded toward the bed. "All right, then move over." We climbed in, both still in our t-shirts and sweats, careful not to make any noise. It was strange, lying there next to him, side by side in the dark. I could hear his breathing. I could feel the tension in his body, even though we weren't touching yet. I turned to face him. "You okay?" He nodded, then hesitated. "Do you think this is a phase?" I blinked. "For me or for you?" He exhaled slowly. "Me." I was quiet for a moment. Then I said, "I don't know. Only you can answer that." He was silent. "But," I added, "whatever this is, it doesn't feel like a phase to me." He reached over then, tentative, resting his hand against my chest like he was grounding himself. His palm was warm through the fabric of my shirt. "I'm scared I'll hurt you." "You will," I said, "and I'll probably hurt you. That's what happens when you care about someone." He looked at me, eyes wide in the dark. "So you care about me?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I do." His hand stayed there for a long moment. Then he shifted closer, pressing his forehead against mine. "I'm not good at this," he whispered. "You don't have to be." And just like that, the space between us disappeared. He kissed me again, slower this time, more sure. His hand slid up under my shirt, not in a rush, just exploring, learning. I let him. I wanted him to. I touched his sides, the curve of his back, the way he shivered when my fingers grazed his skin. We didn't rush it. We didn't go further than we were ready for, but we touched, kissed, held each other like we had all the time in the world. Eventually, we fell asleep, tangled up in each other. And in the morning, when the sun filtered through the curtains and I woke to find Logan still there, his arm around me, his breath soft against the back of my neck, I realized something. This wasn't just some secret crush. This wasn't just a hookup. This was the start of something real. Waking up in Logan's arms was strange. Not because it felt wrong. It didn't. It felt too right. Like something I'd been waiting for without even knowing it. His grip tightened slightly as I shifted, his body instinctively curling around mine. He murmured something under his breath. Half a word. Maybe a name. I couldn't tell. I just lay there for a minute, letting myself feel it. His warmth. His breath against my shoulder. The quiet. But reality always finds a way in, especially when someone knocks on the bedroom door. Logan? It was Ben. I stiffened immediately, eyes flying open. Logan jolted awake behind me, blinking, disoriented. "Yeah?" he croaked, trying to sound casual. "You seen my phone?" "I think I left it in your room last night." "Shit." Logan's eyes widened. Just give me a second." Ben didn't say anything, but we heard his footsteps walking away. I sat up. "I should get out of here." "Wait," Logan whispered, grabbing my wrist. "You don't have to sneak out." "You want Ben to walk in and see us in your bed?" He winced. "Okay, maybe sneak out a little." I stood, pulled on my hoodie, and crossed to the door. Before I opened it, I turned back. "We're going to have to talk about this." He nodded, serious now. "I know." I slipped out quietly, padded down the hall, and ducked into the guest room. Ben didn't say anything at first. But at lunch, he looked up from his plate and said, "You and Logan good?" I froze. Why? Dunno. He's acting different. Less douchey. I managed a small smile. That's a low bar. Ben snorted. Yeah, but still. I shrugged. Maybe he's figuring stuff out. Ben nodded slowly, like he didn't buy it but wasn't going to push. We spent the rest of the weekend pretending things were normal. And honestly, parts of it were. Logan and I didn't talk about what happened. But there were glances, small touches, a quiet understanding that something had shifted. When it was time to leave, Ben hugged me like always and made me promise to visit again soon. Logan walked me to my car. You okay? I asked, tossing my bag in the back seat. He nodded. I don't want this to be a one-time thing. It doesn't have to be. He looked at me, all those shields he usually wore gone. I don't know how to do this, I smiled. That's okay, we'll figure it out. He leaned in, kissed me, quick, soft, but enough to send my heart hammering. Drive safe, he murmured. I got in, started the car, and as I pulled away, I caught him in the rearview mirror, standing in the driveway, hands in his pockets, watching me go. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. There were still things to figure out. Still conversations to have. Still Ben to tell, maybe, eventually. But it was a start. And for the first time, I wasn't just dreaming about Logan. He was dreaming about me too.